Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Off the Shelf, where I analyze and give my thoughts on books that I picked out from a Pitch Your Book to Me event I hosted on X a few weeks back. I'm just going to start with this. Poetry is hard. I don't know how many people realize that. Inevitably, very early in my writing life, because it wasn't really a career back then, but as a child, I tried writing poetry. And there was a minor accolade in school, best out of the class that I got for one specific poem that I wrote long, long ago. And I tried for years afterwards to continue to reach that goal of expression and emotion through a very specific format, far more specific than fiction is. And it inevitably let it go. Part of that was the social stigma of, this is not worthwhile to do. You should find something that's going to make you money, which they said about writing as well. And that's true. But I've always been a writer in some way. This isn't about me. This is about Wilted Flowers, a dark poetry collection, Echoes in the Dark. I am not going to attempt to pronounce her name correctly, so I'm just going to apologize now that I can't, and that's okay. But I wanted to show everyone the cover here, because the cover and her post, the expression of what this collection of poetry was, is what made me want to purchase this. Which, success, it was exactly what I was looking for in the event that I hosted. The cover itself, in my opinion, is beautiful. The contrast of black and white, type font, all of it blends really well, and it's on brand for what it is. So I went and I purchased it, and I read through it. As someone who has been fascinated by poetry all his life, I really enjoyed the read. There are quite a few poems in here, each one with their own specific themes and subjects, all sort of centered around specific categories of themes, which I thought was really interesting. So you could follow the emotional progression from poem to poem. I found myself occasionally struggling to not read a poem in a specific, you could call them pentameter or septet. It's a structure in our heads. And I talked about this in the previous video. The reason we need punctuation is because we're translating visual cues on a paper into vocal speech in our brains. And poetry has the same issue that songs do. You listen to a bunch of songs, there's like a couple of second pause between the previous song and the next song, and your brain has to wash that rhythm of the previous song out. But a good artist that mixes an album knows how to make that transition slight, and it allows song to song to progress in a way that frees the person's mind. With these poems, I found myself sometimes struggling to get out of certain rhythmic patterns. So I'd go into the next poem still thinking about the previous one's flow, where it goes da 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 da, but the next one is going da 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 da, and I'm still trying to read it da 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 da, and it was messing with my head. That's a me thing, but it's something that any writer needs to be aware of. And as a reader, I've read my share of classic poetry and modern poetry, and I found that the classics tended to keep this in mind more often than the modern writer does. Second thing to really point out about the book itself as a reader is that the formatting screws up the positioning for the poems. And I'll talk more in a technical sense about this in the professional half when I'm done this. But visually, that takes away from the enjoyment when you're having to shift page to finish a thought on a poem, something that's essentially less words than a standard paragraph sometimes. But having to shift page or seeing a cascade of formatted words that's broken by essentially Kindle's attempt to page break, it screws up the flow. And I think when it screws up the flow, because poetry is extremely emotion-based, like you're vibing with it, and then that vibe gets cut. So poetry writers need to really be aware of not just the emotion and the expression of their poems, but when you're putting them in a format to be given to other people, you got to make sure it's pleasing to look at. The poems themselves, fantastic. I've really enjoyed them as something of a introvert, where most of my emotions stay deep inside me where none of you can get to them. I resonated with a lot of her expressions and her ability to paint very brief, almost Polaroid snapshots of moments in very few words. It's a sign of someone who really knows how to use words effectively. So if you're an, for lack of a better term, sensitive person who would like to feel those things, I can absolutely recommend Wilted Flowers as something that you can sit down and enjoy with a cup of tea. And I mean that enjoy not in the sense of, ooh, this is exciting, but enjoy in sometimes wallowing in the misery of the emotion that's being yanked out of you by her words. And if this is the only part of this that you watch, then I'll use her words to express how this works, which is, there is someone out there for whom my words are gold. That is directly in the book, and I think that sums up essentially what I'm saying about it as a reader. You will find gold here. Now, real brief because I sort of already had to touch on it in the reader side. From a technical perspective, I know what should have happened as an editor, someone who formats books for people to put on KDP, walks them through the process of doing so. You know, I understand the ins and outs of how those programs work, and I know what could have been done to correct these things. There's a lot of empty space in the Kindle version of this. I'm not going to show it on the screen because I don't think that's fair to the author. But just understand what I mean by there's a lot of space is that imagine my hands are the full screen of what you're seeing here, and all the writing is over here, and a little bit is over here, and then this half, like the palm of my hand, is empty. And then when you move to the next page, because sometimes Kindle and Kindle Create force half a page just to a chapter heading, then it goes like this. And it's all off kilter. So when you're trying to do a visual cue, like a set of words that starts justified to the left and then tabs over and down and tabs over and down, so it cascades, it gets broken up. And then that cascade, there's like words hanging out all over here. A change of font, a change of font size. You can even literally change how big the chapter wording is, the font size of chapter headings as well. All of these things could have been used to address that at some point. Like, I just posted on X that I realized that the third book of my Jisedai trilogy, my name is just slightly smaller and slightly lower than the other ones on the cover. So when I put all three book images next to each other to generate a spread, I saw it went Daniel P. Riley, Daniel P. Riley, Daniel P. Riley, like little tiny me over here. And I went, oops. But like, those are the things to check. You know, you look at your book after you've put it through. Make sure that the system that you're using didn't screw something up, so that what you're handing to your audience is the very best quality and the way you want it to look, within certain reason, because unfortunately you're at the mercy of Amazon and its system. So, you know, you have to work within their structure, but you can work within their structure and still make something that is aesthetically pleasing and presentable to your reader. It just takes a little bit of tweaking, which is more time. And that's really my only statement from a professional analysis of this book, was that it could have, there are little things that could be addressed that would have made enjoying each individual poem so much more fun for the reader if they had been addressed. And that is really it. I encourage you to pick up Wilted Flowers and check out this woman's wisdom and words. And I'll see you guys in the next video after I get finished reading the next book.